and 2020 presidential candidate Joe Biden. Mr. Vice President, thanks for being with us today. And there's a lot to talk about. Well, there's a lot to talk about Syria and the conduct of foreign policy. But with this lieutenant colonel today testifying as we speak and being slammed by the president on a tweet, the witness who listened into that call with President Zelensky, President Trump, today called him a never-Trumper. Others on Fox News have suggested he was a spy. This is a man who, with his twin brother, came as a 3-year-old Jewish refugee from Ukraine and has been in military service for his entire career. What is your reaction to the way he is being really undercut or vilified by some of the president and his supporters?
Well, that's the way the president acts. He did the same thing with John McCain in 2015, and he did it with the Gold Star family member. He did it with Taylor. This guy won the Purple Heart. This guy is a hero. This guy is a patriot. But this is just Trump's style. It's the same reason why he has a bunch of his thugs out there and, engaging in this kind of activity of intimidation, the Giulianis and the cronies that got arrested. I mean, this is it's despicable to do this to. This guy is a patriot. I've never met him, but he is a hell of a patriot.
The House is also at this time moving on to a resolution today on the impeachment inquiry to the floor. Republicans have seized upon this, complaining about the process. From your perspective, isn't there a political downside to this? There's very little possibility that once an impeachment is voted in the House, that it will go anywhere in the Senate. So does it hurt the 2020 Democratic candidates? And you presumably hope to be the nominee.
Andrea, whether it does or not is not relevant. How can one let the conduct of a president inviting at least 3 foreign governments to interfere in our elections not go investigate it? And how can we possibly? I mean, George Washington, in his farewell address, said he warned about the greatest threat, I'm paraphrasing, to new republics is the influence of foreign governments. And this is the only president, to the best of my knowledge, who's ever asked 3 different countries, foreign governments, to get engaged in the political apparatus and the political affairs of the United States. And to this day, he has not acknowledged that Putin got involved in the 2016 election. He's engaged again. The only 2 things I've learned in the last couple of weeks is that Putin doesn't want me to be president with all the bots he's put out and they took down on Facebook, and Trump doesn't want me to be the nominee. I mean, this man has no credibility at all, and to let it go uninvestigated. This is a constitutional issue. This, as I said before, he said he'd go out on Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and get away with it. Well, I think he thinks he's right. He's shooting holes in the Constitution right now. And no matter what it does to the 2020 election, it's a requirement, a constitutional obligation to take a look at this.
Given the short amount of time, there's only 97 days till the Iowa caucus. And Congress has to deal with the possibility of a government shutdown. They have to deal with the new NAFTA, which is pending. There is, all kinds of issues that have to be. There are 4 debates included between now and Iowa. The holiday season. How can Congress deal with impeachment reasonably and it not become just a political football?
Well, I have faith in Speaker Pelosi as to how she's going to conduct it. I don't know how that is going to proceed, and I'm not sure the pace. I just don't know. But look, again, there's certain things you just have an obligation to do, and the House's obligation, the Senate's obligation, if the House were to find themselves in a position where they actually indict in effect. That's what an impeachment proceeding is. It's a determination whether or not there's enough facts to go forward to actually have a vote on whether or not to throw the president out of office, and that's a kick to the Senate, as you know. I've been through 2 impeachment proceedings as a United States senator, and they are not good for the nation in the sense that they're not helpful. There are distractions, but they're obligations. It's a constitutional obligation. There's no way around it.
Before I let this issue go, I want to talk about Syria as well, of course. But is there an argument once we get into 2020, let the voters decide? rather
Oh,
than
yeah,
put
there
the
is.
country
And
through
by the
this-
way, that's my job.
Okay. Well,
I mean, the House has to do their job, and the candidates do theirs.
Speaking about your job on Syria, the president suggested Sunday that getting al-Baghdadi was bigger than President Obama getting Osama bin Laden. He said, quote, Osama bin Laden was very big, but Osama bin Laden became big with the World Trade Center. This is a man who built a whole, as he would like to call it, a whole country, a caliphate, and was trying to do it again. Then yesterday the president said another president should have gotten Baghdadi years ago. What is your reaction to those comments? First of all, suggesting that this is a bigger deal than getting bin Laden, and suggesting that this is something that you and President Obama left to him to do.
Oh, my God, this man is amazing. Look, Baghdadi was a bad man, no redeeming value, and he's killed a lot of innocent people and is responsible for more killing. To compare one to the other, the things I compare are the incredible special forces we have and the risks that they take and their incredible capacity. You know, the thing I do know, Andrea, to whether it's Baghdadi or bin Laden, it takes months and months and months of detailed planning. And the idea is the reports that are coming out now that in light of the fact this was going on and they were getting ready to move against Baghdadi, and the President of the United States precipitously withdraws troops from the same area where we need people on the ground, that the reports that I've read in the major press is that that made it much more difficult for the Delta Force to do their job. They had to fly all the way from, at least it's reported, from Erbil in Iraq. They had to go over 70 minutes. I mean, he just made everything. I mean, it got pulled off, I think, in spite of his actions. The military is incredible. They've done just a phenomenal job, and I have great faith in them. But my Lord, the president should stay in his lane and listen to the military and not get off on these rants he goes on about why he's going to pull everybody out. And now what is he doing? Now he's saying we're going to keep troops in Iraq to protect the oil fields, and we're going to take the oil. That's like putting up a 500-foot banner, a recruiting banner for ISIS. I mean, I don't. He just doesn't seem to understand anything about foreign policy. And what do we do from here? What happens the next time we find ourselves in a situation like this? Who do we get to cooperate with us?
Well,
all he's done is strengthen. Oh, wow.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to say, to that point, we now know that the critical intelligence that helped track down the ISIS leader came from a Syrian Kurd in the inner circle of Baghdadi's. Except President Trump, in his remarks on Sunday, focused more on thanking Russia repeatedly, thanking the Turkey for letting them in the airspace, and then said, well, there was certain support from the Kurds, that they were helpful.
Look, 11,000 Kurds lost their lives taking down the caliphate against ISIS. 11,000 of them. And now they're having to protect their families, or being, in some cases, wiped out. The very area that we controlled by them controlling it along the Turkish border is now, we've done nothing but increase the influence of the Russians and Assad in Syria and Iran. And so, I mean, don't understand how he doesn't understand anything about foreign policy.
Given that he was aware that this hunt for Baghdadi was on, what about that critical decision to withdraw from Syria at this point?
Well, it made everything more difficult based on, look, I don't have the classified information as I did in the past, but based on every report, this plan had been underway for a significant amount of time. When the military learned apparently on a deal he made on his own with Turkey to pull the small amount of American forces out of the area in northwest Syria, where this was taking place, he forced them to speed up the operation as quickly as they could, forced them to have to go from different bases than they would have gone, made it significantly more difficult apparently significantly more difficult to conduct the operation, endangering the operation as well as the lives of our special forces. I mean, it's bizarre that this could happen.
Did you
this
watch
way.
the president on Sunday? Because there's been some criticism from military leaders talking to NBC News and to others about the amount of information that he gave, the detail, the hour and 15 minutes flying from a base, 8 helicopters, detailed down to the dog and the role of the dog.
I just saw the summary. I did not. I was actually out campaigning, and I was in North Carolina. I just found it. When I read the report, I mean, even dictating and allowing to let everybody know basically the methods that were used. I mean, it's always all about Trump. It's all about him beating his chest about what he's done. You know, this stable genius that he is. It just is. I think you're going to be hard pressed to find a military person who thinks this president has any sense of what he's doing and doesn't get more in the way than facilitate.
I want to ask you about the primary race because, as I say, we were about 97 days, I believe, till Iowa. Your operation in Iowa has been criticized. You've been in the polls 3rd or 4th in Iowa. Can you lose Iowa, and now we understand from a new CNN poll you're coming in 3rd in New Hampshire. Can you lose the first 2 big races and rely on South Carolina to be your firewall?
No, I plan on doing very well in both those. The polls, as you know, are up and down. I've been ahead in Iowa. I've been ahead in South Carolina. I'm ahead in all the national polls with occasional one that pops up that's different. Look, this is really early in the process. As you know, and most observers know, the Iowans take a long time to make up their mind, and so I don't. I feel good about Iowa. I feel good about what's going on. I think we have all we need to be able to conduct a really successful campaign in all 4 early states, and so I'm feeling good about it.
And what about your fundraising? Because you've been 4th in total fundraising among the Democratic candidates, spending more than you're taking in, and there are serious money concerns. And if you were to get to the general election, the Republicans are clobbering you on money raising.
Look, we have all the money we need to win this race, and we're doing well. The idea that the fact is we get in several months later than most of the candidates did, and but we're doing well, and we're approaching a significant number of individual contributions. I think we'll have all the money we need to run a full-blown campaign in every one of the early states. And
your reversal on taking PAC money?
Well, I'm not taking PAC money. What we did was that, when Donald Trump went out, super PAC, we're not doing that either. Here's what happened. There's been a grassroots response out there to the fact that Trump has gone out and decided to not only ask the Russians and the Chinese to get involved in making sure I'm not the nominee, but he has his folks are spending an awful lot of money. He's raised a lot of money. They tell me over $10 million spent on advertising so far, telling lies about me. And so this is an understandable response from Democrats who are desperately do not want to see him reelected president. My guess is they would have done the same thing for anybody who was attacked in the Democratic primary if they were leading. You got to ask yourself, why, if I'm the guy that is not doing well, why is Trump spending and the fundraisers, his gun lobby friends, the oil interests, et cetera, are spending millions of dollars this early to try to determine who their Democratic opponent will be? The one thing he doesn't want to do is face me, and that seems pretty clear.
How difficult do you expect this campaign to be? And if you're the nominee, it'll be even more brutal for your family, for your son, Hunter, and for acknowledging that you've said now that your son, your family will not be involved. They won't have offices in the White House,
right,
in the West Wing, as of course the president's family has, but that they will not have any businesses, foreign businesses. If it's not appropriate, if you were to become the nominee or the president of the United States, rather, why was it appropriate when you were the vice president for him to have foreign investments?
Well, the fact is, I was unaware of his investments until it occurred, and I've never discussed what my son's business with him because I didn't want any conflict, including my deceased son, Bo, was the Attorney General and was suing banks apparently, as during the recession, and when we weren't, et cetera. So we just kept everything. We've kept everything separate. And my son's comments speak for himself. He said that if he had known, if he had thought through what Giuliani and those thugs were about to do, he regrets having done it. But the fact is that the president has set a new low in terms of how to engage a family in an Oval Office, in an operation. And I just want to make sure that we're clear that that will not happen if I am President of the United States. I'm proud of my son, but and there's been no indication he did anything that was wrong. But the fact is that I think it's really important moving forward that we not repeat a White House that becomes a standard as the way that the president has run his White House.
I want to ask you one question that came out of local reporting in South Carolina, I believe. There was a report that you were refused communion at a church service for your stance on abortion rights. Is there any truth to that? Did that happen?
I'm not going to discuss that. That's just my personal life, and I'm not going to get into that at all.
Well, do you think that in a general election campaign, you're going to face some of these cultural issues, especially?
Oh, sure I will. Sure I will. Everyone will, And I'm a practicing Catholic. I practice my faith, but I've never let my religious beliefs, which I accept based on church doctrine, they call it De Fide doctrine, to impose that view on other people.
Well, former Vice President Joe Biden, thank you very much. Thanks for the time today.
Thank you, Andy, for having me on.
Easy day. Thank you for being with us.
I appreciate it.
And let's bring in our panel for reaction to what we just heard from Joe Biden.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.